Think you need a $2,000 espresso machine for that perfect, silky milk in your lattes? Think again. Steaming milk at home without breaking the bank on fancy equipment is totally possible. With the right techniques, your homemade cappuccinos and lattes can taste just as incredible. Whether you're dreaming of a smooth, velvety cappuccino or eager to try your hand at latte art, mastering the texture of your milk is a fundamental skill for every aspiring home barista. It's what elevates a simple coffee to a cafe-quality experience. So let's dive into how you can achieve that perfect steamed milk without needing a professional setup. First things first, the milk you choose makes a world of difference. For beginners, whole milk is often the easiest to work with. Its higher fat content helps create a richer and more stable foam. If you prefer plant-based options, oat milk and soy milk are fantastic alternatives. Their protein structures tend to allow them to froth remarkably well. Here's a crucial tip. Always use fresh cold milk straight from the refrigerator. Cold milk gives you a significantly longer window to create that smooth microfoam texture before the milk starts to overheat. Now let's talk tools. Forget expensive machines. There are several budget-friendly options that work surprisingly well. Handheld milk frother. These inexpensive battery-operated devices are incredibly easy to use for quick frothing. While achieving true microfoam takes some practice, they're a great starting point for adding airy foam to your drinks. French press. Yes, the same one you use for coffee. By adding warm milk and vigorously pumping the plunger up and down, you can effectively aerate the milk and create a surprisingly impressive foam, especially for cappuccinos. Whisk or jar. For a truly DIY approach, gently heat your milk on the stovetop. Then either whisk it vigorously by hand for a lighter foam or pour it into a jar with a tight lid and shake it like you mean it. This method creates a decent amount of foam, though the texture might be less fine. Each of these tools has its own quirks and learning curve, so don't be afraid to experiment and discover which method aligns best with your preferred coffee drinks and your patience level. One of the most common mistakes beginners make is overheating their milk. The ideal temperature for steamed milk falls between 140 degrees Fahrenheit and 155 degrees Fahrenheit, or 60 degrees Celsius to 68 degrees Celsius. Heating beyond this point can cause the milk to scald, losing its natural sweetness and potentially ruining the texture of your final coffee creation. Here's how to heat your milk gently and effectively. Use a saucepan over low heat. Stir the milk constantly to ensure the heat is distributed evenly and to prevent scorching on the bottom. If you don't have a thermometer, a good rule of thumb is to stop heating when the milk is hot to the touch, but just before it starts to simmer or boil. You'll see small bubbles forming around the edges. Now for the magic. Creating that glossy, velvety texture known as microfoam. This is what gives lattes and cappuccinos their signature smooth and luxurious mouthfeel. Here's a simple method to achieve it with your chosen tool. If you're using a handheld frother, froth your milk until you see a good amount of bubbles forming, increasing the volume. Then gently tap the container on the counter a few times to pop any large, visible bubbles. Finally, swirl the milk vigorously to integrate the foam into the liquid, creating a smooth and shiny surface. For those using a French press, after warming the milk, ensure the lid is securely on. Pump the plunger up and down vigorously for about 30 to 60 seconds until the milk has doubled in volume and appears foamy. Then, gently swirl the milk to break down larger bubbles and create a more integrated texture. If you're using a whisk or a jar, after heating, whisk the milk rapidly in an up and down motion for about a minute until it becomes frothy. If using a jar, shake it vigorously for 30 to 60 seconds. Let the milk sit for a moment, then gently swirl it to help settle the larger bubbles. Remember, the goal is a silky texture, not stiff, airy foam. For latte art, you'll want your milk to have a consistency similar to wet paint, smooth, glossy, and easily pourable. Once your milk is beautifully steamed, time is of the essence. Letting it sit for even a minute can cause the foam to separate from the liquid. Pour the milk into your espresso in a slow and steady stream. Tilting your cup slightly can help the foam naturally blend into the espresso, creating that classic latte look. If you're interested in creating simple latte art patterns like hearts or basic swirls, properly steamed milk with a good microfoam texture is your first major milestone. Good milk texture makes everything from a basic heart to more detailed rosettas possible with practice. Steaming milk at home doesn't have to involve complicated gadgets or a huge financial investment. With a little practice, attention to the type of milk you use, the temperature, and the techniques we've discussed, you can create beautifully textured milk that elevates every single cup of homemade coffee you craft. So start simple, be patient with yourself, and enjoy the journey of becoming your own home barista. Enjoy your homemade coffee.